and get this party started. All right. Well, welcome to the Young Entrepreneurs Call 729. It's already the end of July. I'm excited because last year I lost my entire summer. Some of you might remember that. I wasn't able to do anything for the entire summer, and it was yesterday, I think, a year ago, where they actually diagnosed what was wrong with me, and then it led to a surgery on August 7th. So that'll be my new birthday anniversary where they restarted my heart. So it's good to be here, and it's good to have energy going into the summer that you all get to enjoy right now. So don't take any of that for granted. So tonight, this is going to be fun. It started off, I was going to do a call on coaching with the John Maxwell agenda when it comes to, how he actually coaches clients, the formula they use. And it goes like this. It's AOOA, AOOA. And it stands for agenda, obstacles, opportunities, and action. And so when people are on coaching calls, you need to start with an agenda. Okay? You have to have something to talk about. So you don't just call someone up randomly. If your phone rings and you pick it up, someone's there because they have an agenda, right? I had a call from a title company today. They had an agenda. So you have to know what your agenda is before you get started with something. So have your agenda and have it lined out and know what's going on, right? You need to have a plan. So have an agenda, and then with that agenda, you need to look at whatever your concern is. What are your obstacles? And Heidi, I'm sure you do this all the time. Riley, I know you're a workout routine person all the time as well, and Sam. But what are your obstacles? Is it the weather? Is it children? Is it your schedule? What things are getting in the way? And then look for the opportunities. Where do you find opportunities? We talk about blank space on your calendar a lot. We talk about, looking for those opportunities, meeting with new people, finding new avenues. And then the final approach here is the action plan. What action can you take to minimize the obstacles, to overcome the obstacles? What action can you take to tackle the opportunities? It's really that simple. And so if you put that on your calendar, just AOOA, and the next time you have a problem or the next time you're ready to make a call to somebody, just use that as a little formula. What's your agenda? What is your purpose for that call? What is your purpose for the Zoom meeting? What obstacles stand in the way? It might be technology, little technology glitches. We've had that here, right? In the past. And you find ways to overcome them. What are the opportunities? To learn from, the bad things and to take action on them. Nothing is good unless it's actionable. So we're going to go back. We'll circle back around to that before we're done. But as I started looking at that, I thought, well, let's go deeper, because that's just a coaching call. That's just to help people get off of, a hurdle, to overcome a hurdle, to get off of their own butts, to get out of their own way. So how can we look at our businesses with a little bit more intent? And that's really the agenda that I have for you tonight. And that's the SWOT analysis. How many of you, just raise your hands, I can see most of you out there, put it in the chat, have done a SWOT analysis before? SWOT. Not surprising, not surprising. Jim, how many have you done?
Plenty.
Less than 5?
More.
Several?
Several.
4. Okay. SWOT analysis are actually, to me, they're fun, they're exciting. And when you're doing them for work, it's a great opportunity for collaboration. And that's really the best way to do a SWOT analysis, and that's not to do it alone, right? So a SWOT analysis literally stands for, let's look at your situation. Everyone can do a SWOT analysis. Strategically identify the areas, it's your strategy. What is your strategy? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? It's just that simple. 4 steps. Okay. And when you start looking at things in that regard, your strengths, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? And what are your threats? And then you form a strategy. So the first thing with SWOT analysis is you can overcome just about any weakness you have if you do a SWOT analysis. If you take a real hard look at it, and I'm going to give you some pointers on how to go about that, and I'll give you some examples as well, you can really use that as a launch pad. You can use it to get momentum, to get traction, to get momentum, and to push yourself into that next level. And I was thinking about this. I started thinking about it more from Jim's call last week when he was talking about toward the end of the call, what are you doing to prepare? We're going into a whole new season. Every time we've got, especially a new presidential election cycle, the market can be volatile. Other things are happening. We've seen social chaos, in the last several years. We can probably expect more of that. And I was thinking not just about our businesses, but about our households. So what I'm telling you tonight, what I want you to do is put this in a perspective of not just a business, a SWOT analysis for your business. I want you to piggyback and I want you to do a SWOT analysis for your household. Really, for the relationships you have within your house. And, if you've got power outages, whether you live in a tornado zone or a possible riot zone, and we do have clients that are out there in those different areas, what are the threats? And so you should have a strategy for that. So do a SWOT analysis. Where do you sit? And I know Taylor's not on tonight, but she's real big. And I know we've got others that are big into self-defense and being prepared in that regard. That's part of your SWOT analysis as well. How do you size up if there is, in fact, a threat? So again, look at this not just as a business tool. I want you to look at it as a household assessment as well. So quick story, last Friday, I think it was actually the Friday before, I spend my mornings working out at UPS, United Parcel Service. And I don't know how many of you were watching the news and you realized that there were entire hospital grids that went down and airports worldwide that went down because of they supposedly were doing an upgrade, right? Some sort of an upgrade, a computer software upgrade, and it basically crashed the systems. Well, what didn't hit the news was the UPS system that tracks all your packages when you go online and say, where's my package? That system also went down. And what that meant was you had an entire day's worth of parcels. And here in our valley, that looked at about 24,000 deliveries that didn't get made. That was just in our little area. It was down in Polson, Montana. It was down in Missoula, Montana. It was spots all over the place. Randomly, some places didn't get hit by the glitch, but they didn't have a plan. There was no backup plan. The grid went out, the computers went down, and back in the day, you could manually enter all that stuff. You could put it on trucks based on addresses, and the drivers knew who lived where. And that's ultimately what they ended up doing after sitting around for 3 hours saying, what are we going to do with all this freight? The freight just kept coming in, but there was no way to process it. They didn't have a plan. And I started thinking about it. And Heidi, I know you worked at the Summit, the medical healthcare facility. And I was there as a supervisor on the eve of Y2K. All right. We had a SWOT analysis, all of our departments, the whole hospital had SWOT analysis going on before Y2K, because the whole thing was, what happens if we lose the grid? What happens if we lose power? What happens if we lose computers? You have to have a strategy in place. And our big thing at the time with the Summit, we could overcome just about anything, because that was easy. It wasn't the medical part of it. But we had an indoor swimming pool. And Y2K, remember, was January 1st. And it's 20 below outside. What do you do when you don't have any power and you've got a heated pool? Olympic-sized pool that now is nothing but a block of ice. We had to have a strategy. And part of the SWOT analysis was, well, can we drain that pool in enough time? If the grid did go out, could we pull the plugs, drain the pool? Or are we going to leave it on and suffer the consequences if we can't do anything? We can't keep it heated. So we actually had a person who used to work on submarines, nuclear submarines, who came up with some challenging possible ideas on how we could overcome some of those things. So it was a quite interesting period to be in. But every business can have something unforeseen happen. It doesn't have to be great big like Y2K, but I'm telling you, it happens to big businesses, small businesses, and everyone was affected by that last glitch. Whether you were stuck in an airport, whether you were expecting a package to be delivered that you needed for your business, people were stuck because somebody hadn't done a SWOT analysis ahead of time. Did they have generators? Do they have a backup computer system to rely on? Backup software? Something needs to be done. So luckily for me, I'm not a supervisor in that area and I'm not a consultant. And so it's not my worry. And it gives me great pleasure to be able to walk away with a clean slate and say, I don't have to worry about that, but somebody should be. And we have to assume that the people in the know and in power are in fact working on a SWOT analysis for that. So a couple of things about a SWOT analysis. So they make complex problems more manageable. That's the first thing. If you're going to look at a SWOT analysis, it is simply to make a complex problem more manageable. Break it down. The second most important thing is it requires external considerations. You've got to get outside of your head. You've got to get outside of your box, get out of your box to read the instructions, right? So you have to get out of your normal routine and start looking at things from every different angle and reach out to other people. Have somebody else look at your business from the outside in. They can be applied to almost every business question. It doesn't have to be a great big thing like Y2K or a power outage or something like that. It can be as simple as you're trying to reorganize your team, trying to reorganize your how you do business. Heidi, you're taking your business from a one-on-one to an online coaching. That's you did a SWOT analysis when you were working with Rachel to rebrand, do your marketing strategy and all that stuff. You're doing a SWOT analysis, whether you're walking through the SWOT steps or not, that's part of what's going on. So when you're expanding, whether it's a geographical expansion or a social media expansion, you've got that. If you're going to develop new product lines, if you're going to write a book, how are you going to use that book? How are you marketing that book? How are you going to use that as a new launch pad into what you're doing next? That can require its own SWOT analysis, right? Are you going to start cutting product line? Are there things that are not working for you? Are there things that you need to branch out in? If you're looking at multiple income streams, which ones can generate a bigger payback with a little bit more effort? Right? If you're juggling several different businesses, and I know some people on here have hobby businesses also, right? Can you nudge your hobby business into a full-scale business? Can you scale up? Do a SWOT analysis on your hobbies. And I know, Samantha, you had some just interest in different things and you turned those into businesses, right? You had an interest in marketing. You start looking, you start branching out, and the next thing you know, you've got yourself another business. Now you're consulting. Now you've got clients. A SWOT analysis gives you purpose and direction, and it actually gives you that momentum to go forward. So that's another benefit. The other great thing about SWOT analysis, you leverage several different data sources. You're not just looking at the one thing. And that's what we tend to do. We start looking at bottom lines, and when the bigger your business is, the more you're scaled, you start looking at bottom lines instead of at details. A SWOT analysis should be looking at details. You start going into the nano portions, right? You want to look at little things, what little things can be done. And any business that I go to, this is the fun thing. For years, I've always said I could walk into any business and I can find ways. I could list you out just on a little sheet of paper, probably 10 things on how to improve your business, whether it's processes, whether it's how you're marketing, how you look from the outside. In fact, Jim and I, when we were teaching class, that's one of the things we did. We had a business check sheet where the students had to go out and do an actual assessment, a business assessment. And they could do it to any business they wanted. They could walk into any service industry, fast food place, customer service place. It didn't matter. And you you could check it off and say, where are the weaknesses? What are they good at? What are they bad at? And that is part of your SWOT analysis. So pulling in different data sources, you've got to get out of your head. So that's just the big picture of SWOT. Now we're going to dive in a little bit. Step one, and this gets back to our AUA, right? Your agenda. Determine your objective. That's number one. What is your objective when you're doing a SWOT analysis? Figure out what your objective is for your business. If it's a new product rollout, you're rebranding yourself, or if you just want to take a new look at the current business that you have, just really step back and take a snapshot and say, this is what I've got. These are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, and this is what I can do to get better. So whatever it is, determine your objective. That's first and foremost. Number two, gather your resources. Every SWOT analysis, whether it's a detailed, big, broad overview or not, you're bringing in different people, different data sets, different information. So gather all of that stuff together, and then you start looking at each one of them. Again, this is where we go into the nano area. What little things can we nudge to make this better? What can we do differently? And in addition to that, you should be understanding the combination of personnel that you have. And that might, if you're just running a family business, are you doing things the best way you can with your family being involved? Can you get your family more involved? That's one of the things that we can even look at is, some of our weaknesses can be we don't have a spouse that's fully on board behind us. If that's a weakness, can you overcome it or not? Do you have to or not? At least deal with it. At least look at it. You should at least be listing everything down. Can you get more help? What can you do to network, to leverage every little thing? So gather your resources and put it down. If you're a big company, obviously you're going to be looking at a lot more stuff than that. You're going to be breaking down all the department by department, right? What's your finance department look like? What's your customer service department? Your deliveries, your manufacturing schedules, all that stuff. What's your staffing like? And those are the big things. And people always joke about, oh yeah, it's the bean counters that make the decisions, right? Some bean counter who's in an office somewhere far, far away, doesn't know anything about what we do day to day, who says, no, we're no longer going to do donuts for the crew on Fridays. And the next thing you know, you've got employee theft going up. You've got people calling in sick. You've got people saying, screw the boss. Little things make a big difference. So a SWOT analysis should really be looking at all those different areas. So step number 3, compile your ideas. This is where you get to put it all together and really brainstorm. This is the fun part. Looking at the problems from a different perspective, getting other people's opinions on it. And this is so important. We've got to get out of our own heads. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more because it's a weakness when people do SWOTs, getting in their own head. So getting out of the way really requires getting other people involved. Even if you are the sole proprietor and you've been running things the whole time, run it past someone you trust. Run it past a business associate. Run it past your best friend or your pastor or one of your adult children. Find somebody who will look at it and help you brainstorm it a little bit. So compiling your ideas. And when you're doing that, here are 2 different steps to take. I want you to look at internal factors and external factors. And I'll give you some examples of internal factors. First, break it down again. We're looking for strengths and weaknesses. So internal factors, what are you doing well? What are your strongest assets? Weaknesses, what are your detractors? What are your lowest performing product lines? What is your weakest social media engagement? Whatever that is, those are your internal factors that you have control over, right? And then your external factors. Now we're going to look at this in 2 different ways, opportunities and threats. Your external factors, what trends are evident in the marketplace? Why is this important? Let's take a look at Bud Light for just a second. I'm sure everybody remembers the Bud Light fiasco, right? Anybody not? Okay. Well, here's the trend. The trend has been DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's been this big mantra for the last almost 8 years in the big business scene, just going on this DEI push, whole departments set up for this. And then so that they're looking at that as an opportunity. Well, how can we capitalize on that niche? And then they launch one beer can, to support a niche in that market, which is 1 to 4% of the market share, by the way. And they sank their sales. I mean, literally, stocks plummeted because what they thought was an opportunity turned out to be a threat. So this is where a SWOT analysis has to come into play. Yes, it's an opportunity if you go after that, but somebody needs to be there saying, pump the brakes a little bit. What happens if? So we gain a 4% market share and we tick off 50% of our existing market. Is that a good trade-off? Why didn't anybody see that coming? Why? Because they were too interested in being on a trend. So this is where a SWOT analysis can be very, very beneficial for a company. And I'm not taking sides one way or another. I'm just saying that was an existing flop. Every marketing person, they should be teaching this in college classes, but I don't imagine DEI will allow them to teach it from that perspective. But I'm telling you, we should be looking at things like this. We can learn from others' mistakes. And it doesn't all have to be DEI. It can be anything that's out there that if there's a trend and you're not walking in it with your eyes wide open and looking at it from several different angles, it could be your Achilles heel. So, opportunity. What trends are evident in the marketplace? What demographics are you targeting? Again, Heidi, you're I believe over 40 because you're courting more of an older class out there, right? So that's a demographic. You don't need to get the college kids who are, going out for sports and they want to do, more layups and push-ups and be faster and jump higher and run faster and further. You've got a demographic that you're targeting. So once you capture that demographic, then you can branch out from there. Maybe you could, I can tell you there's a demographic that needs to be done with cardiac rehab right now, but that's not in the typical 70, 80-year-old, where they're sitting on a machine, doing a hand bicycle. There's something that could be done there. But where are your demographics currently? Where can you go with that? Because you could be all over the place if you're not being specific. So that's opportunity. Your threats. How many competitors exist? What is their current market share, and can you get some of that? And if you do go after that market share, what are the repercussions going to be if you steal it and they come back after you, right? So you have to look at this strategically and from a battlefield position. Other threats. Are there new regulations? What's on the horizon for small businesses or expanding businesses, especially as we start looking at a new regime coming in? We don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. The pollsters don't have a crystal ball. They get it wrong most of the time anyway. So we should be preparing for anything, more regulations or less regulations. Let's get ready to roll. But we also better be ready to scale back and hunker down. I mean, you should have contingency plans, right? So internal factors, external factors, strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Take a good hard look at them. What a lot of people do when they're doing, and I know with SWOTs that I've been involved in, we actually storyboard them. You actually build a grid, four blocks. Block one, strengths, list them out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Weaknesses, list them out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Opportunities, 1, 2, 3, 4. Threats, 1, 2, 3, 4. Block it out. What you're doing now is you're taking all this information and you're condensing it, consolidating it, so you've got it literally on one sheet of paper in front of you. Just a 4x4 grid, and you've got everything that you need at your fingertips. You've refined it all down, which brings us to step number 4. Once you've done this process, refine your findings. You've got it boiled down. You've got a list of all of your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now refine it. And this is where you start brainstorming with your key management people, okay? Or people you trust. Take that to them. And this is where you might want private consulting, private coaching. Say, look, I've done a SWOT of my business. This is what I've come up with, but I need another pair of eyes on it. Can you help me with that? So refine your findings. And then step 5, this is the fun part, develop your strategy. You've done all this extra work. You've really looked at your business. And I don't care if you just started your new business 2 months ago. It's not too early or too late to do a SWOT analysis. If you've got several businesses, I like to put mine together. We've got several different things going on. Put them all together because that's our nut, right? That's the resource that we have. But then you break those down. We've got this one, this one, this one, and this one. So what can we do better here? Where do we put the effort? You know, do we put it here, or are we good? Not complacent. Are we good? Right? You never want to get complacent, but you can be in a good holding pattern. So develop your strategy, armed with all your lists of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's time to build a new strategic plan. This isn't a new business plan. This is a strategic plan. The difference being is now that you've looked at it, whether you've been in business for 2 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 month, now it's time to say, okay, what's my strategy to move forward? And this gets into the AOOA again, right? Where you've got your agenda, your obstacles, your opportunity, action. What action are you going to take? That's what your strategic plan is. Now that you've reassessed all this, what is your action plan? The strategic plan is nothing but a piece of paper unless you put it into action. And I put this on my Instagram, any of you that follow it, quite a couple of months ago. And I think it was, now I can't even remember who to quote this, but there are 5 kids standing on a bridge. Have you heard this? I've shared it before. If there are 5 kids standing on a bridge and 3 of them decide they're going to jump off into the water, how many kids are left? 5. Because deciding to jump and jumping are 2 different things. So that's the lesson of the night. You can have a strategic plan unless you put it into action, it's nothing. So making a decision is only part of the game. Taking action on it, that's the important thing. So your strategic plan should be something that is actionable. And that means right away. So common mistakes when doing a SWOT analysis. The first one is cognitive dissonance. You don't know what you don't know. I heard a speech one time. It was called, the title of it was Pigs Don't Know Pigs Stink. And that's exactly what it was. You don't know what you don't know. Other people might, they even say, if someone's in a room and they say, hey, somebody needs to get some new deodorant or something. And if you have to ask who they're talking about, it's probably you. Okay, so take a good hard look. Cognitive dissonance is when we just get on our own way. We fail to be objective about our own assessments. We fall in love with what we've already done, and so we can justify every action we've had, every decision we've made, and we can't get beyond that. So get out of your own way. That's the biggest obstacle to doing one of these. So you really have to be honest, eyes wide open when you're doing this. Don't be overly optimistic and don't be unrealistic with your analysis. Number 2, conducting it in isolation, and it kind of dovetails with number 1. You need input from diverse stakeholders, even if you're going to your customers. What you said you're satisfied, we've had a good relationship. What could I do to make this better for you? What? Change my hours? You want more graphics? You want more sideline help? You want more referrals for books? What can I do extra? So ask your significant stakeholders. You're not in this alone. And number 3, Not all strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are equally important. And this is where it takes some discernment, takes a little bit of experience and wisdom sometimes to know what is and what isn't important. And I was actually just looking on my bookshelf today. I have this little book. It's probably reading backwards there. Anybody ever read this? It's The Little Prince. It's a little allegory. It's really short, simple little book by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I don't know. I don't speak French, so I don't know if I've mispronounced his name or not. But it's a real simple little book, and I've taken this with me. I've had this thing for decades. It cost $1.95. That tells you how old it is, right? And the moral of the story, if I were to sum up this whole thing, it's just a little allegory. I was looking for the copyright. 1943. Okay. The moral of the story in this is matters of consequence. You need to know what is and what is not a matter of consequence. That is identifying your big threat. Is it really a big threat? Is it really that big of a deal? Does it warrant wasting 5 minutes or 5 hours of your time or not? Is it truly a matter of consequence? And I can tell you in all my years in any occupation that I did, the biggest problem that I saw with management was turning molehills into mountains. They were trying to make things matters of consequence that weren't. And most of it was because of their own insecurities. I wish we had some psychologists on the line. Well, I kind of do with Jocelyn tonight, but low self-esteem, and then people try to overcharge all the time, right? They're going to go in there, but you need to understand if it is or if it isn't a matter of consequence. Don't let it get to you. That's where people, if they say something and, oh, they insulted me. Did they really? Do you need to respond to it or not? Right? Sometimes you do. Sometimes you need to put your foot down and respond. Other times it's not worth one more second of your thought. Right? So there you go. The Little Prince. I'm recommending that one. If anybody wants to find that, if you see it at a bookstore, a book sale, a garage sale, pick one up and read it. Now that I've given it away. All right. And the last frequent error is treating a SWOT analysis as a one-time exercise. And I've already jumped in on that. It doesn't matter how many you've done, whether you're rebranding, relaunching, adding staff, wanting to add on to a product line, just getting ready to start. You've done your whole business plan. And Riley, I know you did your business plan last year and you're getting ready to launch. Things are coming up quickly. Take another look at your business plan. What has changed? What has changed from the time you wrote that plan to the time you're ready to launch? You can do a SWOT analysis just on your business plan and say, I'm just going to take another look at it. Did I cover everything? Start making notes on it. It's never too early and it's never too late to do a good SWOT analysis. So that is all I've got for you tonight. That's loaded. There's a lot of information out there on SWOTs, but that's it in a nutshell. And yeah, look at Riley. A lot has changed. That's exactly right. And I wouldn't expect anything less. A lot has changed. So anybody who's got comments, or if you've got a question, doesn't have to be about this tonight. It can be about absolutely anything at all. Please raise your hand and we'll open it up for discussion or questions. I don't see anything, but I'm not going to let Jocelyn get away without Jocelyn, unmute. Give us an update. I know you've been busy on the farm this summer. We've not seen you in a while. Give us a quick update.
Well, I know some of you that I know you follow me, so you've probably seen that we been doing this landscaping rock thing. My son actually started that last year when he was 14 years old, just contacting farmers and asking them if they had rock piles in their fields that they, didn't want, because most of them just want them out of their way. So we would pick them up after he'd find them, and they'd be free, and we'd turn around and sell them. So it started out being a pretty nice little side gig, and I thought, he was able to have some pocket cash and stuff. Well, then when he got hurt in the winter and was laid up, and then we were a man down, couldn't make maple syrup this spring and everything, which last year we were literally shipping all over the United States. We were down. I mean, we couldn't put any out, just for home use. That's it. So we dug in. He was laid up. We started really pushing this rock thing, and it has blown the heck up. I'm telling you. I just literally delivered 6 boulders the other day and made $4,000. I mean, it has blown up. Like all my friends out in Utah where there's lots of rocks, they're like going crazy, like, I can't believe you're selling rocks, And I'm like, well, this is Ohio. We don't have any, So what we're doing now, the farmer stuff is good. It's really good. But I found something even better. We got this little quarry that's out in the middle of nowhere. Like hardly anybody even knows about it. So I've been going over there, loading up that 16-foot dump trailer with like 5-6 giant boulders. I might spend $700-800, and I am more than doubling my money back. I mean, it's just
awesome.
It has been crazy. I mean, and now that's what I was kind of going to ask tonight. It started out our target, avatar that we were selling to was just people that want a big rock or something to sell at the end of their driveway or whatever. Some of them are going to have them engraved or whatnot. We've even had people, now, I guess it's starting to be a trend, I guess, where people are getting big rocks for their headstones and having somebody that we know is hand chiseling them, and they're turning out beautiful. And so people are doing that now, but we have started marketing to a higher class of people. I mean, these people are using these rocks to like build waterfalls in their backyard and crazy stuff. Do we keep marketing to those people or just market to everybody? That's where we're kind of stuck, because I kind of don't even want to piss around with these little people anymore, because they all want something for nothing. But where we've got these big ballers now, they don't even bat an eye when you tell them $3,000-4,000. So I think I just answered my own question, but
You
I
did.
thought,
And
yeah. So
if you do the AOOA on there, where are your opportunities? Where are the obstacles? Where are the opportunities? And what action do you want to take? You've just answered your own question, Jocelyn, and that's, follow the money and follow the least amount of effort for the money. And I think it's awesome the way this thing has organically grown.
crazy.
And you've grown. The question you have to ask yourself is, have you grown as far as you can organically with just how you've been advertising and with word of mouth? Or are you ready to scale up? And when you are, then you want to target that wealthier clientele. And there are all kinds of strategies you can use there. You know where the upscale people live, and I would ask for a referral from any of those people that are building larger projects. Whether it's gates or fountains or backyard kitchens, for example. I have a client in another business that does nothing but backyard kitchens, and we're talking, probably $40,000, $50,000 kitchens on their patios. So you can find those people. You can just go to your, look at land, and you can send flyers to them individually, but have pictures of what you've done, and you can, go down to the courthouse. You can access most of that stuff, the geo databases, and you can find the addresses, find the owners. You could do some target mailings and just see how it works, and it would be really inexpensive to try it that way. But work on the referral system. You know who your clients are that are willing to pay without squawking. So, path of least
Yeah, and
resistance, and I
luckily,
absolutely love.
luckily, these higher rollers all live in these real elite neighborhoods. So we're going and we're dumping these boulders, and as you can imagine, it's pretty loud when we dump them.
Mhm.
So everybody knows what's going on. So it's like, I pretty sure some of the others are going to be asking, "Hey, where'd you get those? You know, where'd you get those rocks or whatever?" But yeah, it's been
Well, here's
crazy.
one quick idea. Not that you've asked for an idea, but if you had just some flyers printed up, some nice quality flyers that had your contact information and some of the things that people are doing with those big rocks, right? From headstones to, gate markers or whatever, address markers and fountains and that sort of thing. And if you had it on one sheet of paper, and when you went to drop a load, right? If you just went to the three houses on both sides of it and dropped a flyer saying, "Hey, you probably heard us dropping all the noise. This is what it was about. I hope we didn't bother you. If you need anything, here it is." And there's not even any postage there. That's just the cost of a print. And then when you're already there, just hand them out and say, "Hey, we're going to be making some noise here today, and wanted you to know what was going on."
The other
You know?
beautiful thing about it is some of the people are they have landscaping businesses, and we're like working with these landscapers because I already called around everywhere in the neighborhood and made sure that we're cheaper than what they are as far as the boulders. Um, we're selling them for 19 cents a pound, and everybody else is in the 20s and higher even. And so yeah, they have a lot of people that they get to tell too, "Hey, this is where we're getting our, you know, stuff from." So I think that's pretty much what's happened, has just been word of mouth, because I've only advertised on Marketplace. That's it.
Well, it might be time to scale if you're ready for
I
it.
think it
If your
is.
son's healed up, I've seen you dragging some of those giant rocks off of there.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
crazy.
It is. I know, and I put that one video where we were placing that one, and so many people asked me, "Why not just dump the trailer?" Well, that's because it was full of other rocks, and we specifically put that one at the end because we knew we were going to place that one. So then after that one was out, we could dump the rest. But it's just been
So here's
crazy.
here's my challenge to you, Jocelyn. Sit down with. I want you to dream big now. If you had unlimited resources for free rocks and this thing grew, and you got not just around your little town, but you got the whole county and then even the township, right? Let's go big. What kind of equipment would you need to harvest the rock and to deliver the rock and actually put it there? Because what I know what that kind of equipment costs, but you need to know what it costs so that
That
you
is
can
what we're
build it into
running.
your next budget.
It's like you're
If
reading
you
my
haven't done it
mind.
already.
It's like you're reading my mind right now.
All
Yeah,
right.
we have, that's where we're at, actually. And he has already Friday went to the implement place and got the book and talked to the guy, and oh yeah. So he's pricing out this big skid loader. And we have a tractor with a loader, and that's what people keep asking. "Do you have a way to unload me or unload me?" Well, we can only lift about 1,800 pounds with that tractor loader. And some of these rocks that we're pulling out of that quarry, 5,000 pounds or more. I mean, they're huge, and we can't move them. So that is kind of
Well,
hindering us, because these rich people, they would rather just have a one-stop shop.
right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something else out there, and maybe this may or may not apply, but because I think this way because I've done SWOT analysis, and I do know several rock harvesters here, quarries. Do check into the regulations, especially if it's an old quarry, if it's an abandoned quarry. You may have to get a mining permit. If you're going to scale up, at least look at the regulations involved so that before you buy a bunch of equipment and now you're on the hook for it, and all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, you can't do that here. You need to know that ahead of time. So make sure you're doing.
I mean, they can load us. They can load us, no problem, because they have telehandlers and all kinds of stuff. So that's not a problem. They can load us. But we really do need something that we can take to the customer's home and place these things instead of just dumping. Because then they're having to hire someone with bigger equipment or rent equipment, when that could be a total upsell if we have to take the equipment.
Yeah, I'm seeing a whole nother business here, Jocelyn Crane and Rigging.
I don't know about that.
Big.
I don't know
But
about that.
it sounds like you're on the right track. It does.
Well,
it sounds like you're on the right track. So I'm excited for you.
Yeah, the stuff you brought up was actually already things that I was thinking about asking tonight. So I guess I came at the right time.
Perfect. Absolutely. And it's good to see you again. And I like following you, watching Jocelyn get her rocks off on Instagram. It's
Oh my God.
It was there.
Yeah. You had
you have it.
You had to.
Yeah. Good stuff. Anybody else? Everybody doing good? I'll let you get back to your summer evening. All of you have an excellent evening. We'll see you next Monday night.
All right,
Thanks,
awesome.
Bob.
Thank you.
Hit it hard this week, guys.